Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Someday with Jay Barsky. This episode's guest is dating coach David Meessen. David is a popular dating and relationship expert that has plenty of online content. He's based out of Ireland, but has clients all over the world. You'll hear us talk about his self help podcast, the importance of high quality social contact, and much more. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoy our Someday with David Meessen. David Meessen, what's up? How you doing?
Good man. How are you?
I'm great. I am happy to have you on this podcast. I have some friends that are following you, and they kind of recommended about your relationship advice and the services that you provide, which is kind of what I want to get into first. And you have the Meeson Consulting Company. So, how'd you go about in starting that?
Well, I was unhappily married many years ago. I was always into personal development. Eventually worked for a big tech company in Dublin, met somebody, a male friend of mine, a guy friend of mine who was in this dating, attraction, seduction space for many years. He became my first mentor, so to speak. And after I ended the marriage with my ex-wife, I started going out and learning from him. And because I was very much a logical overthinker, getting friend zoned, I wasn't good at this at all. It's funny, 80% of my clients are introverts. I'm very extroverted.
Hmm.
But it took me a lot of learning to be able to get out of that and eventually then pivoted into that. I always loved coaching. I was teaching karate at my university here in Ireland back in the day. And I really enjoy that aspect. And so the vehicle changed, but the outcome has always been the same. The outcome has always been confidence. And now, obviously, there's an additional outcome, which is a high quality relationship that people get when they devote themselves to this process. But it's still confidence. Back in the day when it was
Yeah.
karate, the guys and the girls, they'd walk through the campus with a lot more confidence after 6 months to a year because you realize what your body is capable of. And yeah, so pivoted into that, started that, and now worked with as social media grew, worked with men from 28, 29 countries, and helped them find someone. Typically men who um, they're doing well, intelligent, smart, but a little bit on the logical, overthinking side, not the
Hmm.
typical playboys, like just like nice, warm, kind
Yeah.
guys. They may have had a couple of relationships, but they don't know how to find the right ones. So, like some guys who have had zero experience, and others who have very little, or some people who've had actually a lot, but they can't find the right one. And what I try to do is I try to help people on two different levels, right? The ones who are going to become my clients, and the ones who will never become my clients who consume the content. So I'm trying to put out content that really helps people, and then also obviously help for people within the realm of a coaching.
How does like the initiation process work? Does someone just kind of call you or message you when you set up a phone call?
Yeah, so they either DM me on Instagram or they apply. We have this application form for a free initial consultation call. So if you want to find out more, then you just apply for a free initial call. Then my assistant gets in touch and then they schedule a call either with me or with them. And then we're going to go through everything in detail. We're going to analyze your situation. We're going to figure out, are we even able to help you? Right.
Mhm.
Because it's not a sneaker that you sell them and you don't speak to them anymore.
Yeah.
It's an actual coaching relationship that's
Mhm.
developed. So I kind of have to like the person, right? And most of the time, people who watch my content, they resonate with me anyway. So there is most of the time a degree of compatibility, but not always. And if it doesn't make sense, I'm going to say, well, I don't think this makes sense for the two of us because this is going to go for 3 to 6 to 12 months or something.
And I thought I saw like you also do kind of like seminars or workshops as well?
hmm Yeah, we do seminars as well. And we do in person events for clients. So I always say if you want to find a relationship, if you want to get a good social life, you don't have to go to bars and nightclubs. It's absolutely not necessary. You can just use online dating. You can meet women in Starbucks, hot yoga, rock climbing, whatever it is you're doing. But bars and clubs are a place and they're a fun place, right? So sometimes we do in person events for clients where we spend a weekend together, we spend a week together, and they learn how to meet women in real life. I love that. To me, it's amazing. So it's not necessary, but it's just something that I really, really enjoy. And then we also do seminars in person, so right, where in a seminar context where we just go through theory and we do exercise. I love that. I love Zoom because it allows me to work with people from all around the world. I'm based in Ireland. A lot of people are in the US,
Mhm.
so it's fantastic. But being with people in person is the best thing.
Yeah, it's great. A little bit like my background, I consider myself an introvert, but like doing stand-up comedy and like
Mm.
that's kind of like people, like, I have to kind of switch it on to being an extrovert, which I've heard you talk about, like, it's a skill, like
Yes.
communication and, like, you don't it's something that I've kind of awoken myself into doing, like,
Mhm.
before COVID, I pretty much was just a, like, stay-at-home person, but when I got into stand-up comedy, that's kind of got me more exposed to going out to different bars and just to different areas that kind of allowed me to improve my skill. Obviously, when I first started, like, it wasn't great on my socializing, but now it's come to a point that, like, it's developed my confidence to, help with competence too, which is also something I've heard you mention before.
What
But
made you want to get into stand up?
this one night, I actually went to a bar. I always like comedy. I never really got into too much stand up just to see until like COVID kind of gave me that push to like appreciate like stuff that I should be going out to. So I went to a bar with a or I went to a bar one night with a comedy show, and this was before I started doing stand up. And I've never been like a bar person just to hang out and just socialize, but I like comedy, and it just kind of drew me like, okay, stand up is what drew me to go to this place. Stand up is what drove me to go to explore to other areas. So I came just to start off, just to watch. That's all I wanted to do, just go watch to other shows. And then I kind of just pushed a friend of mine into it, and he kind of just pushed me into doing it myself. And that led me to just being better at socializing and just helped me on my speaking skills and just pronunciations on a lot of stuff. And I've now been able to socialize a lot better outside of comedy too.
Stand up is amazing, man. I'm such a big fan of it. Uh, I have a friend of mine who was the most brutal introvert 10 years ago, developer, software developer, and then real introvert. So he said COVID is the best thing that ever happened to him because he didn't have to speak to people, you know? Funny enough, though, is that he became a street magician. He went out there and for 7 years he performed magic. And he was also in this dating, attraction, seduction space. So he's pretty good with women. He is by nature the most brutal introvert, but he can switch it on. He's very funny, he's very witty.
Yeah.
He has stand-up comedy level humor. I would say I'm pretty funny because I've developed it over years for an average person. Stand-up comedy is
Mhm.
different level. It's the
Yeah.
same with martial arts. Like there's like martial arts hobby, kind of the way I was doing it for 6 years, and then there's Bellator professional fighting. Not talking about that, right? That's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
different level, you know. Um, but he is so funny. It is amazing. And you realize as you've gotten into stand up, you know that there's really levels to things are just objectively, certain things are objectively more funny.
Mhm.
There's subjectivity, but certain things just hit. And he is so funny. And it's so cool because when I hang out with him, and every now and then I make a joke, and it's like sometimes it lands and it's good, and sometimes I just make a joke that's kind of like dad joke humor just for fun. And he just looks at me, he's like, "Well done, good try, boy." You know, a stand up is amazing. I love, for example, the Kill Tony show or various other ones. What I actually teach all of my clients, or I tell my clients rather, you should watch an hour to 2 hours of stand up comedy a week.
Okay.
Because how are you? I actually say that because a lot of them they're so stiff, and I'm so German. I really understand that, right? I think there's a
Yeah.
difference between joy and fun.
Mm.
My father, after his divorce, he's now been with his new wife for 10 years or something. One of the most joyful people I know. Very joyful, been meditating for 20, 30 years. Very peaceful, loving person. Amazing. Joyful. But he's never cracked a joke in his life, I think. Because fun is different.
Mhm.
Fun is different to joy. Joy is it's gratitude.
Yeah.
It's a very deep spiritual emotion. Fun, I believe, is also spiritual in a way, but it's more lighthearted, silly. I think if you want to have a really happy life, you want to have both. You want to have joy and fun, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't understand sarcasm at all. I completely grew up without it. But if you surround yourself with funny, you can become funnier. Now, you're never going to
Yeah.
be a Dave Chappelle. You're never going to be, it's talent, right? Talent is
Yeah.
absolutely involved, but you can get pretty good. And you don't have to be funny. You don't have to be mega funny to get a
Yeah.
girlfriend or life partner, really not necessary. But to get a little bit more loose, if you surround yourself with those things, and the cool thing is, as an average person, you can do something that stand up comedians can't do. You're allowed to steal jokes,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're not a comedian, you can just
Yeah.
steal a joke and use it on a date. You
Yeah.
guys aren't allowed to do that. But if you're
Yeah.
not a comedian, you can just use them on a date, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said you recommend your clients for to watch up stand-up comics. Is there
Mhm.
any comics you recommend that
Oh,
you
yeah. So I'm open. I like all kinds of ones, right? So Andrew Schultz is amazing. I like Joe Rogan. I like Bill Burr. I like Dave Chappelle. I like the Kill Tony show. I was like, there's so many, man. There's I don't even like such a variety. Those are some that I would usually recommend.
One thing I try to do outside of stand up is doing like social media, like funny clips, which is something you do too. I've noticed a little bit in your social media clips. So, what kind of inspires you to like come up with these clips?
You mean the funny ones?
Well,
Or the
funny ones, and you have
funny in quotation marks, you
well, you
know?
have funny ones, and you have like really unique, interesting ones that like capture our attention, like the waterfall background and all that stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So there's a difference between the long format and the short format. My real passion is long format content. My real passion is the YouTube videos where I can go on around for 15, 20, 30, sometimes 45 minutes. Because I think nowadays anybody can make a 15-second, 30-second, 1 minute reel and look cool. But
Mhm.
can you go and talk about masculinity for 28 minutes in the German mountains nonstop, you know? And I'm constantly working on my public speaking skills, but this is something that I deeply care about, you know? It's the experience of flow that you get is amazing. I'm sure you've had that with stand-up comedy, other areas. That is something that's really amazing. So I like I like being in nature. I don't like being inside too much. I like being in the office a little bit. It's
Mhm.
okay. A bit of German is left in me, but I'm way more inspired if I'm in the German mountains tomorrow, for example, right? Fernanda and a friend of mine, we're going to drive up some little hill here in Dublin. I'm going to go in a forest and I'm going to film a YouTube video there. And I'm going to go on some rant about the subject of dating and relationships. It inspires me. My mother had a big influence on me. My mother, as children, always drove us into nature. My father worked a lot, so he wasn't often home. He was home, but it was predominantly my mother. So we always went into nature. She really instilled a love for nature in me. So I love it. It makes me feel
Okay.
so deeply happy. And if I'm sitting in front of a waterfall in Germany and I go on a rant of like, okay, how do you get a woman to invest in a relationship? How do you keep the attraction? I love that. That feeling to me is priceless. You cannot buy that with money. It's so the only thing that I love more is in-person seminars with clients. It's so amazing. Now, the short form content is there's a lot of strategy that goes into that because it's really understanding what are everyday scenarios that people can relate to that would be how can I make it funny so it captures people's attention? How can I put a valuable one piece of
Mhm.
advice in there that really helps people? For
Mhm.
example, she says, I'm not ready for a relationship. Well, that's a rejection. Never hit on women at work. I want how not to approach. Well, there's actually 17 different mistakes that you can avoid in there.
Mhm.
If you flip it around, people are like, show me how to approach. Well, yeah, one, you learn that in the coaching program, but also if you just do the opposite, duh, you know? So how do I make it funny and relatable so people like it? And then, for example, one video that's being shared a bit right now by a lot of women, which is funny, is who should pay on a date, right?
Mhm.
And I say, if you as a man expect the woman to pay on the date, you're a little bit confused,
Yeah.
right? And all the women are sharing that. They're like, the funny thing is, I'm not saying you're supposed to buy her presents or anything. I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of that at all, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to like go into that direction whatsoever. But I was like, yeah, pay for drinks and pay for dinner, you know. So we sit down. I some of that is scripted, some of that is very much created free flow in the moment, and sometimes I leave a little bit of an outtake in the end, you know, at the clips which you may have seen, just because it's fine. It makes it more relatable, you know.
I like it. You actually and it shows that you put passion into this. You see a lot of relationship advice coaches kind of just do their clips, at home or just, in their car or something like that would kind of spice it up and make it different.
Yeah, tomorrow, Fernanda and I'm not sure if she's gonna come because later tonight a friend runs the biggest dance school in Ireland, and so we're gonna go dance some bachata and salsa. So I'm not sure if Fernanda has time tomorrow because she's gonna do some meal prep, going to the gym. But if she's gonna be able to come to the forest, then we're gonna do some bachata dancing in the forest, you know. So that's nice.
I noticed the poster you have on the back, which is, I believe it's a cover of your podcast, the Dating and Relationship Revolution with David Meessen. So, do you want to share what that podcast is about?
Yeah, so that's not from the podcast. That's just the business logo,
Oh, that's
right?
just okay.
And then we use the business logo for the podcast. Yeah, the podcast is just me being able to go into a lot of mindset subjects, right? It's not too much me interviewing people, which maybe I'm going to pivot into at some point, which I'd be interested in, but it's more about me going into mindset. So for example, one thing is so many, like for example, women only want me for my money. Okay, cool. Another one is Women only want me if I have money. Also nonsense. It's all about looks. Nonsense. Here's 7 reasons why you're single. What about time? What about this? It gives me the time to elaborate things in a longer, in like 10 minutes, usually 10 minutes, 50 minutes, 20 minutes, sometimes a bit longer, but around that time to go into something, to expand. You might see something in a 15, 30-second, 45-second reel, which is cool, but it doesn't provide too much depth. And a
Mhm.
podcast is nice to be able to, one, obviously show expertise, but help people resolve mindset problems.
So for someone that comes into your podcast, is there like a specific one or two podcasts you can highly recommend for them if they're listening to for the first time?
Yeah, good question, man. I think one I shared the other day, which is episode number, well, it's definitely called 7 Reasons Why You're Still Single. So that's a good one. That is number 44, right? Episode number 44. And, and that's one, yeah, 7 Reasons Why You're Still Single. There's a lot of them. They're cool, you know? But that one in particular, because it just goes through, people like numbers, you know? I realize that, and sometimes I realize, I'm so stupid. I learned something 2 years ago on TikTok and then I forget about it. It's like, oh yeah, if you put numbers, 3 tips, this, the video performs better. And then I forget about it. And then I just something else, you know? So like people like numbers. So it's like 7 reasons. And the rest is a couple of points, you know, a couple of mindset things, online dating, blah, blah. So it's like, that's a good one to start with.
But and I kind of want to get because you obviously are like really motivated and passionate into this. And for our listeners would obviously could tell. And so I kind of want to get into like what motivates you a little bit, like some standard questions I usually ask. And what I want to start off is like, what do you do to relieve stress? Do you get stressed on like some things with like
Oh,
pressure?
never. I'm perfect. Of course, it's a big passion of mine. It's actually something that I teach in my program, a lot of strategies, and I'm going to give you some that I've used for 5 or 10 years now, right here, because everybody gets stressed. Everybody experiences those emotions, but as Tony Robbins says, we all have an emotional home, and we get what we tolerate. I don't tolerate feeling too bad for too long. I just don't tolerate it anymore. And there's a couple of habits for feeling good. So first of all, most people don't realize that you can create the emotional home. A lot of people, I love Jordan Peterson. I think he's amazing. One thing where I would slightly disagree with him is he says, if you're lucky, happiness descends upon you. I disagree with that. You can very systematically create happiness and feeling good on a regular basis. So one, feeling happy comes down to doing what you want to do. Am I living
Mhm,
a life that I want to be doing? When I was with my ex-wife and I was spending the weekends at her parents' house, I was half depressed. Not half depressed, but I was just unhappy. I was like, what am I doing here? I want to get beaten up in my martial
mhm,
arts club. I want to train karate. I want to teach karate. That makes me feel alive. That's pure happiness,
yeah.
right? It's pure happiness. The activities, that's one. If you want to feel better, if you want to have less stress, do more of what you want to do. Be more with the type of women you want to be with. Be with the high quality men you want to be with, right? And if that means you want to work a lot, work a lot. If that means you want to go rock climbing, right? There has to be a social component. Everybody needs social contact. So
Mhm,
the number one thing to reduce stress is high quality social contact. Not just with women or a woman in the end, high quality male friends. Super, super important. The number one thing, I think Joanne Hari wrote a book, The Real Lost Connections, The Real Causes for Anxiety and Depression. The number one reason for a lack of happiness and thereby increased stress is a lack of high quality social contact, right? High quality social contact. It doesn't mean anybody, social contact in general. It's funny. Andrew Huberman, he spoke about that in a podcast where he says that even brief moments of social contact with strangers, a little interaction with the barista in Starbucks, you have a nice moment. So, for example, earlier I was in Starbucks and I got a latte, and there was a lady. You could see she's not doing well mentally, and
mhm,
she's not doing well physically. And it was so funny because I was like a little bit in like getting things done mode. I was in productive mode. Today we're gonna do
mhm,
this, blah, 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 blah. And everything. I saw her, and I've seen her there before, and within a second, everything shifted within me because I was like, man, this poor lady, and everybody was being compassionate because I've seen her there cause trouble, but because she's a little confused, she's like
mhm.
70 and she looks malnourished. She probably drinks 14 cups of coffee a day and she puts a shit ton of sugar in there. The poor lady. And immediately there was compassion because I realized, oh my goodness, this poor lady is not doing well. And she probably comes to Starbucks partially to have contact. And in that moment, I was not only did I feel a sense of connection just to the people around me, a little bit, I
Mhm,
was like, oh man, because there was a sense of compassion for this person who was suffering.
mhm,
So, but it's also she goes there to have some sort of social contact, and I do that too. I like that, right?
mhm,
I like every now and then like sitting and answering Instagram messages or working in Starbucks. I like that.
mhm,
I really like socializing. So high quality social contact is the number one thing, guys. You got to do it. And how to meet high quality male friends? Go to a gym, Ask a guy if he can spot you. Call him bro so he knows your intentions are clear. Very important. And so you go to a gym, you ask a guy if he can spot you, you call him bro, and then you ask him out for a coffee. You do that several times. And if you go to a high quality gym, you're going to meet some high quality friends. Go to jiu-jitsu classes, go to rock climbing, make an effort. We as men have not learned how to meet high quality male friends. Other than your mission, your woman, high quality male friends are going to be the greatest source of happiness in your life. And happiness decreases stress. In physiological terms, there's an oxytocin release. I'm not a neuroscientist, but I've learned from some. There's an oxytocin release, there's a dopamine release. Your brain rewards you with all kinds of
Mhm.
neurotransmitters and happy hormones if you're in the
Mhm.
company of high quality male friends. Last weekend, I hung out with some of my friends, and the weekend before was the weekend before we did that, right? And you just talk shit. Just play Mario Kart
Mhm.
or you play Street Fighter, you beat each other up. It's one of the purest sources of happiness, right? I'm all about helping people, helping men find an amazing woman because Fernanda is probably the number one greatest source of happiness in my life on a daily basis. But other than that, it's my high quality male friends. I'm in a very fortunate position that I really genuinely love the business that I have. There's aspects to every job that are a pain, but high time with high quality male friends, your stress levels go down. You're just genuinely more happy. People are like, I'm depressed. Oh, cool. Well, here's the thing, right? And I'm going to give you a couple of stress relief techniques in a second because you asked for that, but this is very important. You're like, oh, I feel depressed. Well, first of all, you have to understand that depression does not mean there's something wrong with you. It's a very normal reaction to unsatisfactory
Mhm.
life circumstances. You're living a life that's not making you happy, you're not doing what you want to be doing, you're not exercising. The number one
Mhm.
habit is exercise. Every man has to work out every second day of his life. Work out for 50 minutes or intensely 45 minutes, 3 times a week. Your life will change. And you have to. For every second day, 45 minutes, up intense. And then it should be a combination of the more the better, by the way. If you can do
Mhm.
7 days a week, do 7 days a week, 100%. Obviously, there's a point of diminishing returns where you need to recover. But as David Goggins says, work out first, and then let's talk about recovery.
Mhm.
Exercise number one, right? Um, but yeah, high quality male friends, exercise, and you really need to take that serious because if you don't, then you're gonna get depressed and then you're gonna not feel happy. But it's do you get sunlight? Andrew Huberman talks about that. Do you get sunlight in the morning? Okay, even if it's overcast, 30 to 60 minutes a day outside. I went for a walk earlier. It was cold in Ireland, didn't want to, but the photons, they hit your light, they set your circadian rhythms, it boosts your dopamine, it just makes you happy. There's a lot of things you can do. Sunlight, exercise, high quality social contact. The number one thing is sleep. If people have fucked sleep,
Mhm.
you need to fix your sleep. But exercise helps with sleep, right? Have a cool room. Make sure the room is dark. Take magnesium bisglycinate before you go to sleep. Take L-theanine, take epigenin. Don't take melatonin, right? Fix your sleep. Number one thing. These are all things that make you, if I don't sleep right for 3 days in a row, I'm the unhappiest, grumpiest person. And I get stressed instantaneously, right? There's people who cope well with lack of sleep, which is interesting. I really can't. I'm not doing well without sleep. So these are things that you can do to reduce your stress. If your sleep is fucked, stress suffers, right? Then
Mhm.
there's the what is it called? The something sigh. Andrew Women calls it. Basically, where you do a double inhale and an exhale. It's one of the
Okay.
fast. It's amazing, and I know a lot of relaxation techniques. This is one of the fast ones. If you're ever stressed, do these. And if I invite your audience to go along with this right now, and you can do it wherever you are, because some relaxation techniques they're a little bit more obvious. You might have to go to the bathroom if you're in the office or somewhere, but this one you can do. You basically inhale, and again a little bit, and then you exhale through your mouth slowly. And if you do that 3 times, it is the single fastest way to relax. It is amazing. If you're stressed, it's one of the fastest ones. Then there's power posing, hands in your air, hands in the air for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Really just that, up in the air. I learned that from a psychotherapist in Ireland a couple of years ago. Lee Robbins does it literally like that, just 2 minutes, hand
Yeah,
in
I'm
the air.
working with you.
Yeah, testosterone increases and cortisol
Oh,
decreases.
okay.
Very powerful.
I
Another one
feel
is the
it.
forehead rub, where you just rub your forehead for a minute slowly, like this. And he says it increases blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. It also releases.
Oh,
If you're ever stressed, if you do these 3 things, it takes you 5 minutes, and you will feel 50 to 150% more relaxed
wow.
instantaneously. You do these 3 things. You can do the inhale, the sigh. I don't know what it's called. The one big one, one short one, and exhale. So it's and then through the mouth slowly until all the air is out. You do that, hands in the air, forehead rub, relaxed. And you will sleep better. And these are some very, very powerful, very practical techniques. Some of them I teach my clients because some of them get very nervous before dates.
Okay.
So that's something you can do before the date, because whether you feel confident or not is not just competence dependent. It's also a mental and emotional state. How do
Mm,
you feel? And you can
mm.
control that largely with either your physiology, focus, or
Yeah.
language patterns. And this part of physiology, this inhale, relaxes you neurologically. It decreases cortisol. You're able to more freely associate. You're able to be more witty and more funny on the date as well.
Mm. We're mentioning about like things that men should do, like recommend about exercising. So I kind of want to get into like some special routines that you specifically do that you want to share. I mean, you mentioned karate and like exercising. So do you work out like 3 times a week? Do you work more, a little less, or how? Maybe a little diet. Like, what do you kind of put in your body to that you feel like you could recommend for our listeners?
I've been working out pretty consistently since I was 5 years old, 3 times a week. It's never been a lot more than that. There was for a period of time for 5 or 6 years where I was training martial arts a lot, where I trained 4 to 7 times a week. But for me, training martial arts comes easy. The gym, I hate the gym. I don't hate it, but really 10% of the time I'm looking forward to going to the gym. The gym is just hygiene, right? I haven't done martial arts practice in a good few years. I want to get back into it because I enjoy that a lot more. So I just beat up a couple of my friends, or we beat each other up. That's fun. That's a fun way of exercise, but I just understand lifting weight is just so important. It's party hygiene, and it's the number. I don't do it. Aesthetics is, I would say, 30% of the reason, but 70, 80% is mental and emotional.
Hmm.
100% just weights, right? I just do upper body workout 3 times a week. I do mostly the same upper body, and then obviously a little bit of legs because it's important, because it boosts testosterone. If the legs grow, everything else grows, and it's just it's mainly a mental and emotional thing. Yeah, just I have so many friends who are fitness coaches, so they've given me various training plans over the years. I do just very simple. I usually just do 6 exercises 3 times a week. I try to do the big ones. So I do pull ups, I do bench, I do incline bench, I do triceps, biceps, I do a little bit of rowing, and then I do leg press and leg extensions. And then I vary it a little bit, like lateral raises. But that's basically it. But I try to train intensely. What I do is I try to really push myself hard, and that doesn't mean I go to run one rep max every now and then. I do that, but like most of the time, I try to stay within a 4 to 8 or 6 to 12 rep range. And obviously, if you go down a little bit, it increases testosterone a little bit more between. But I try to really push myself hard during the workout, because I realize if I half-ass the workout, my energy for the rest of the day is going to be half-assed. One, because my self-esteem is going to suffer because I know I didn't push myself, but it also has a mental and it has a physiological effect. If you push yourself hard, you get more energy from that. Because it's, for me, the gym is a metaphor for breaking through. There's a challenge in my life, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through it. It starts with physiology. If you don't train your body, you're not going to be able to break through unless you meditate an hour a day. If you meditate 45 minutes or an hour a day, that could replace exercise largely. I don't believe fully, but
Hmm.
strokes for different folks. But I believe every man should exercise. That's that mainly. And then I do sauna, and then I do cold showers. With nutrition, I'm definitely far from perfect. Um, a friend of mine who's a fitness coach, he says my nutrition is all over the place. I'm going to sort that out over the next couple of years. I do, yeah, it's quite overlooked. I make sure that I get all the nutrients. I try to get a lot of greens, and then basic supplements like vitamin C, zinc, D, omega-3 fatty acids, high quality fish oil supplements. So I would recommend people to check out Andrew Huberman. He has a lot of high quality content on that. I'm not an expert on that. Then some mushrooms, obviously not psychedelic or anything. I'm not a fan of drugs whatsoever.
Hmm.
Nothing, zero. Alcohol, very rarely, on very rare occasions. But some chaga, some reishi. Try out different things. Yeah.
And you kind of touched on this question before, but I kind of want to mention something you mentioned earlier. Just personal practices that help motivate you. Something additional that you may have not mentioned. But you did mention earlier that your mother's kind of been a big driving factor into, I guess, a lot of what you're doing or just going outdoors. Is that right?
Yeah, both of my parents have. So my mom has influenced me in a lot of ways. My father also, though, because they're not the most typical German parents. In a sense, they are, but in a sense, they're open-minded very much. So my father had me do my first raisin meditation when I was 5 years old, or 7 or 6 or something. So imagine you're a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 6-year-old child, whatever, and you're playing in the garden with your brother, and then mom calls and says, lunch is ready. Let's go. You expect lunch. And then your father is home. He says, we're going to meditate. And you get 3 raisins. And he goes, this is your lunch. Gotta meditate. You take it. You look at the raisin, feel it. And he works in the healthcare sector, so he's not
Mhm.
off that. He's very much based in objective reality. He still works quite successfully in the healthcare sector in Germany. So they're very much based in objective reality, but also open-minded towards spirituality and other things. So I'm meditating. I'm like, I'm fucking hungry as shit as a 5, 6 year old. I'm like, give me some proper food, right? I basically get into loving kindness meditation. And meditation is something that I've been on and off and on with. The number one habit for me is gym, 100%. And I think a lot of people, a lot of things that clients of mine struggle with is their inner dialogue. They have not yet refused to live in an adversarial relationship with with themselves. They punish themselves. I don't beat myself up if I'm not perfect with my habits. If I'm very clear on my must-haves. I must work out 3 times a week. If I do that, cool. Every second day I gotta work out. That's it. The only reason I don't do it is if I feel a little sick or feel my body is worn down. That's the
Mhm.
only reason I don't do it. That's fine. Otherwise, it's gonna get done 100%. And if I can't do that, at the very minimum, I'm gonna go for a half an hour run, right? Because that's a very intense workout. If you run for 5 kilometers, I find that a very intense workout. But I don't punish myself if I don't do it, right? And so, yeah, my parents have gotten me into personal development from an early age. And so when I was 14 years old, I got into EFT, emotional freedom technique, right? From 14. And then I started doing that regularly from 16 to 20, 4 years. I tapped on my face, They're like, David, how did you learn English? Do you want the real story? Well, I tapped on my face from 16 to 20. And I affirmed things. Amazing guy called Brad Yates, probably the best teacher for emotional freedom technique out there. Absolutely powerful tool. And that's something that I started. So I got into that very, very early. So I love that. What motivates me these days is I don't have too many things to do. I don't need to do a lot of things that motivate me because I've built my life in a way where
Mhm.
that's motivating, right? I
Mhm.
like doing it's working. And then so
Mhm.
you just, at some point, you're just in a routine and you're just doing it
Yeah.
because it's a boring process. It's just what I'm doing. And this is awesome. And this is fun. But what really motivates you is progress. And Tony is totally right. He says progress equals happiness because it doesn't matter where you are, how good things are going. If you're not growing, you're going to stagnate and then you're going to look for ways to compensate. So
Mhm.
what's the next step? What's the next step in the business? What's the next step for clients? How can I, like the other day, I was in the office at fucking 3 a.m. in the morning and I was recording new modules. It was okay, cool. Helping clients. Let's build out this Instagram strategy more because Instagram's so powerful. It was already really good, but then an update. Okay. And then there was an update on Hinge. Let's build that in. Right. So I like creating that. Right. Because part of my coaching program, one is obviously real coaching calls, be that group coaching or people have a shit ton of money, then it's one-on-one. But there is also a training platform, right? And I'm like, this is the big one. Like, okay, how can I build that, create that, right? I've never been creative to the extent that I can draw, but I like creating things that haven't existed before. So that progress is very, very motivating. It's like, it's even better client results, even better client results. It's already good, but like more, better, bomb, different
Mhm.
system. Video, right? I'm excited about the video tomorrow that I'm gonna. I don't know what I'm gonna film yet. I'm gonna write down. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna meditate on it a little bit. I'm gonna be like, oh, cool. What do I want to do? I like sitting down and staring at the blank canvas of my mind. I think writers call it, or comedians call it, the fear of the blank page. You sit down and you, oh, what
Mhm.
am I gonna? There's nothing.
Yeah.
I do that with my mind because if I film a YouTube video, because I have so much content. I have over 2,000 pieces of short form content, right? So I could just recycle them, but I'm like, okay, something else, a new angle,
Yeah.
the principles are always there, but a new angle, a new story. How can I tell it differently? What's something else? What's something else that I can bring in? And I sit there and I stare at the blank canvas of my mind. What am I going to talk about? And there's nothing. There's nothing. And then one thought comes, and then one thought comes, and then it develops. I'm like, that's a creative process.
Mm.
That's exciting. So the progress is cool. And then leveling up, and then, okay, cool. Now we're having higher quality Instagram reels. So progress is really cool. And then progress in a relationship as well. And that's what, or even for men who are getting out there, you don't have to be in a relationship straight away for you to feel like you're making progress. Hey, can I get more
Mhm.
dates? Can I get higher quality dates? Can I keep them interested in me? Okay, awesome. Now I'm in a relation. Now I'm dating several different women. Now I'm in a relationship. Okay, how can I then grow with Fernando? Like going to
Mhm.
the gym. And these are important things. And how can I grow with my friends? How can I help my friends succeed?
Mm.
Progress is really what's going to make you feel alive. Tony's totally right. Progress and contribution, helping other people feel good, advance in their life, and make progress in your own life. These are two very, very motivating things.
Amazing. But David, I think you kind of like shared a lot of great information that I think our listeners would greatly appreciate. Are you working on anything that our listeners should watch out for?
Yeah, it's funny. I probably shouldn't be talking about this yet, but I'm actually going to release a shorter product soon. I don't know when yet. I don't know the title, so I don't want to reveal too much.
Mhm.
Because usually the only way for people to get to me was either through the free initial consultation call, obviously, or if they join the program. It's quite expensive, all of them. So I'm releasing a product that's going to be, it's going to be less than €100. I don't know how much yet, 40-ish. We're going to think about that. And it's going to be called How to Solve Tinder as a Business Owner with Little Time. Some variation of that. And that's going to be about how to get more matches on online dating. It's not just going to be about Tinder, but you will learn everything you need to get more high quality matches on dating apps, right? And so that's something that I'm working on. That, for example, that's a new thing I'm excited about, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to know that. I'm going to film. I'm going to totally over deliver, right? It's going to absolutely exceed the value of €40 because €40, that's a premium subscription for one app, right? So you buy that one time and then you get that, and you know how to get high quality matches. So it's cool. That one thing. So that'll be released. I don't know how long it's going to take me, a week, a month or something. I don't know, but that's something that I'm excited about. Yeah.
Awesome. And do you have any final words you want to leave our listeners to help motivate them in pursuing their someday?
Yeah, you're absolutely in control. All you have to do is you have to change a couple of thoughts, you change your actions, and you change your results. The results that you have right now, they come from thoughts. But we as human beings, we're not only controlled by our thoughts, but more so by our emotions. Right? Thoughts create emotions, emotions create thoughts. And sometimes we have conflicting values. I want to get out there, but I don't want to get judged by other men. What are people going to think about me? What if I have to admit that I'm not good at dating? There's this stigma attached to it. Just understand it's completely normal. You are
Yeah.
absolutely in control. You can do it. You can do it by yourself, you can get professional help, but you have to do it, right? There's no way around that. I mean, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything, right? You
Yeah.
can be perfectly fine without it. But if you want to be happy, having an amazing woman in your life is absolutely essential. But it's high quality social contact is the lesson I want to leave you with a high quality woman as well as high quality male friends. It is the number one source of happiness. As a man, you have to be on your path. You have to be doing something you enjoy. Your mission, absolutely important. Without that, you will feel lost. But you need high quality people, and you can do that. You can just get out there, you can learn to socialize, you can really do it, and your life can get measurably better. The quality of your life can get measurably better. You can get so much happier if you spend time with the right type of people.
Thank you so much. Appreciate David for everything that you recommend for our listeners. I think our listeners grasp a lot of what everything that was discussed today. But David Meessen, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you.
on Someday with Jay Barsky.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to our episode with David Meessen. Follow him on all his socials, which you may find in the episode notes. I hope you enjoyed our episode. Please rate and comment on the podcast to help make it grow. If you wish to follow me, all my socials are at I am Jay Barsky. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.